guess what? It's, look at the camera, Ganyu. It's Ganyu, and it's 2025, and this character, it's worth mentioning that lately, I have found reason to use Ganyu again. Well, not really to use specifically Ganyu over other characters, not on like a strength level, but in that two character releases, notably these two ladies, have made me actually enjoy Ganyu's strongest playstyle, which is Melt Ganyu, which I never really enjoyed that much before, and now I like it. So that's basically what this video is going to be about. I want to talk about how Ganyu has been in 2025 after, you know, I've been playing Genshin for 3 years. I got this character forever ago. Specifically, January 31st, 2022, so literally almost 3 years ago. That was back when I first started playing Genshin. I used her all the time because, you know, just range damage, bam, like getting 20Ks at range in the overworld, the Nile, it just felt great early on, right? But it didn't really scale when I got to the point where I started playing Genshin for a long time, learning more about mechanics. I eventually stopped liking how she played, and that's because of like interruption issues and, you know, build investment requirement issues. But guess what? You know, well, okay, the interruption resistance issue isn't really quite solved, but it's slightly solved because it's worth mentioning. I do have Shallonen C1 that gives me a little bit of interruption resistance, and I also have Shallonen C2, which gives me 60% crit damage. Thankfully, it's pretty easy for me to show you how my Ganyu would perform if I didn't have Shallonen C2. Because I can just, you know, not put a crit damage circlet on her. For this team, I do also have Muika C1, and funnily enough, Muika C1 is bad for this team. So if we do Ganyu E, oh, don't die, you know, we get Cryo on the enemy, and then we could use Shallonen, and then the idea would be you could use Bennett, Blam, and then with a C0 Muika, you would do this, right? And then we can go to town, get big damage, wow. You can see, you know, we ran out of Bennett buff, but Muika's still going, right? She's still going. She's still going. Still going, right? Like, the problem is that Pyro keeps on applying. So if I want to, you know, start over the rotation and do Ganyu E again and put Cryo on the enemy to get the scroll buff with Shallonen, right? This is a circumstance where C1 Muika, increasing the duration of Muika's skill, is annoying. Ultimately, it's not really that much of a problem, though, because of the fact that, you know, C1 Muika does increase the damage contribution that Muika provides in a team, but in sustained rotations, it does mean you just don't necessarily get the 4-piece scroll bonus. For what it's worth, I do have 4-piece scroll on Muika as well on this team, which is probably not ideal. I'm gonna leave her on this because, you know, it's a strong enough Muika build as C1. I'll like, this team is strong enough, is my point. With like the investment I have, I don't need to hyper optimize the perfect builds for the situation going on here. So anyway, there's the Bennett. Shallonen is just on a generic, you know, buffing. Yep, she does damage. And Ganyu, her build. We gotta answer the question. Okay, like if you hyper invest into Ganyu, you really like Ganyu over a lot of time spent like with artifact farming and, you know, maybe getting specific characters in constellations for them because you just want to do everything you can to make Ganyu get as big number as possible, right? And I even got Vaporware weapon. This thing hasn't reran since the Chronicle Planner last year. Wonderful, right? I don't think you should stress out about getting this weapon specifically, by the way. So, using Wanderer's Troop still, because Wanderer's Troop still pretty good for, you know, Melt Ganyu circumstance. There are other options for Ganyu nowadays, like if you play Ganyu with Farina, you could potentially use 4-piece, I should say, Hunters, that gives her a bunch of crit rate. That would be, you know, a freeze Ganyu team where you'd probably want something like Aqua, not Hunter's Path. But my overall build here is, for a Melt Ganyu, is a really good Melt Ganyu build. There's basically very few. Is there even a bad roll? Oh yeah, there's some bad HP rolls. Ooh, no, and one flat defense roll. So, like, I have very few dead stats on this build. So overall stats is 364 EM. This is all before buffs, of course. 1909 attack, 74 crit rate. So after her first charge attack lands, she's at 94% crit rate, 230 crit damage, functionally 290 crit damage with Shallonen C2. How good can Ganyu be in Genshin in 2025 if we just have, you know, all the newest strong... Alright, all the new strong supports for her, right? How good can she be? Muika's targeting range is not super far away, like you have to be relatively close to enemies, yeah, like that far away. but it is like far enough away that, particularly for like overworld comfort, I imagine this is like much better than the Xiangling combo, because one, it's not burst reliant, right? You press E on Moika and you get targeted pyro application for you to be able to melt on your Ganyu. Like Moika, support Moika genuinely is the number one thing that I think has made Ganyu melt feel actually good to play. I never enjoyed doing the Bennett Xiangling combo because of Xiangling energy goofiness and needing to funnel energy to her. I just suspect that most people would really like, if you want to play Melt Ganyu to get the biggest numbers possible on her, would really like having Moika for her. Obviously, Shalonen's ability to heal means, when you're low on health, it should be pretty easy to stay alive. So yeah, I don't know, this is just a really comfortable team. She does get interrupted fairly often, still, even with C1 Shalonen, but you have some crystallized shields, interruption resistance, and you have, C1 Shalonen interruption resistance that you can tank a lot of hits and not have to worry about dodging, but I don't know, I think it's like a well-balanced form of interruption resistance, ultimately. And I say well-balanced because I personally am a fan of having to, be aware of enemies attacking me and having to dodge on occasion. But Ganyu is a character that gets very, very punished, of course, for being interrupted. So this team's balance of interruption resistance from the Crystallizes and C1 Shalonen makes it feel good, is my point. But it might not actually feel good to you over just using Zhongli instead of Shalonen, because Zhongli is just brain off. Anyways, I think like Ganyu is a character that people have obvious reasons for liking her for overworld utility for a lot of reasons, but getting Ganyu to scale to the hardest content in the game, particularly as they've been making Spiral Abyss quite a lot harder. I mean, not necessarily harder, but like more specific in the elements they require, and the HP total of the enemies is also increasing. I suspect many Ganyu players have been struggling to keep up with Abysses in the last couple years, right? But in my opinion, this team is definitely much more than strong enough that you don't need like the high investment Moika signature weapon, Shalonen C2. Just having the characters at a baseline and having a well-invested Bennett also. Like this is a C5 Bennett with a crowned burst and a Aquila Favonia. This is the maximum buff possible for Bennett, right? But I don't think the Constellations actually do. But anyway, let's go do like a comparison of what my Ganyu damage looks like with and without Shalonen C2 buff. And blam. Flap. Didn't mean to bring the bike, that's fine. And nice, 155k. Yep. Both these hits melt, right? So it's 90k, 155k, and yeah, so 250,000 damage per charge attack. And I'm gonna switch to this goblet and this crit rate circlet. So this is gonna overcap my crit rate, obviously. This is not a normal build I would use on my account, but I have about the same amount of attack. So the expectation here is basically this is what a non-C2 Shalonen. Everything else the same. Well, whatever, that's fine. Everything else the same. This is a non-C2 Shalonen damage. Blam. And you can see we are getting, what, 70, 80k, 130k? So we're still getting like 200,000 damage per charge attack, right? That's, and notably, by the way, how much damage you deal as far as like your clear times go, since the end game combat of Genshin is based on clearing as fast as possible. When we're talking like really high investment things, how many actual attacks it takes to kill an enemy, whether or not you reach breakpoints of extra damage. I think we did the same number of charge attacks there, right? It took the same number of charge attacks to kill that Dorito. Now in Abyss, enemies are likely to be tankier, such that it's more likely that C2 Shalonen could result in us killing enemies with like one less charge attack kind of thing. But if you don't reach that breakpoint of like killing the enemy with one less charge attack, any damage improvements don't really matter. And my point with this is like, while if you're like a really dedicated Ganyu main, I think it could very well be worthwhile to get something like a Constellation that gives you 60% crit damage for free. If it doesn't actually result in a breakpoint against a given enemy that allows you to kill it with a less number of total hits, seeing a higher damage number on screen doesn't matter, right? It takes the same amount of time to kill it regardless. I just want to point that out because like it's possible something like a Constellation that buffs your Ganyu could be worthwhile. I think people overestimate how much stuff like this does sometimes. Oh yeah, I don't know if I mentioned, my Ganyu is crowned. She was the first character that ever got a crown on my account. It's nice to give her some appreciation again. Honestly, that's all I really have to talk about with this team. I am going to go take this team to Abyss because, of course, how could I... This is the first Abyss in, like, forever that actually incentivizes using Cryo in some form. So we're going to go to Abyss. But I do briefly also want to talk about Burn Melt teams. And I want to show with Emily instead.
I'm quite flattered.
I actually don't want to remove Bennett. The fact that I accidentally replaced Bennett there shows the actual inherent problem with Burn Melt teams in that you can't use as many buffers for Ganyu. So while we're going to have the team's damage diversified by having like Emily and Ganyu's damage and say Moika's damage, we have to lose a buffer in some form. So in this context, I'm pretty sure the smartest one to lose is Shallonen. And what we should see is Ganyu's damage being a heck of a lot less than what it is with the Shallonen team, of course, because we're losing Res Shred, right? And Shallonen, by the way, I didn't talk about this. The big thing that Shallonen did for Ganyu is enable the ability to get like Res Shred bonus, like a Kazuha type of buff, right? But Kazuha has the problem like the enemy needs to have Cryo on them, and then you need to, you know, use his skill, and then you get the 10-second uptime buff from him. Cryo units, usually the setups for like Cryo Swirl setups, they were just really awkward. Shallonen has a longer uptime buff that even if the enemy doesn't have Cryo on them, you do her skill, do 2 normal attacks, you'll get the Red Shred buff. And it also adapts to new waves. Like, Shallonen feels so much better than trying to do, like, really clunky Animo unit setups with the likes of Ganyu or potentially other Cryo DPSs. We'll start with Emily, Wika, and Blam, Blam. And... Right, yeah, I don't want to know what the second hit got, but where's the second hit damage? I can't see it. What's happening? Okay, I don't know why the second hit damage is not even showing up screen. But either way, you can see the first hit is like half the damage, right? And like these teams don't feel bad to play, but it's just a different way of diversifying a Ganyu team's damage. And sometimes, you know, Dendro might be a relevant element to bring in for a particular situation. Like this team is probably a heck of a lot faster, for example, at clearing the second side of this Abyss cycle. Not that, right? The second side of this Abyss has those Papilla Natlan shield enemies that want a lot of elemental hits, and burning like shreds through them pretty quickly. I guess I should see what happens if I use C2 Shallonen here in place of Bennett. Oh, you know what? I just realized that team, by the way, with Bennett doesn't get Moika's burst back consistently because at C0, Moika needs to have either, you know, Natlan units in the team to give her extra energy in order to burst every rotation, or normal attacks going on. And, you know, Ganyu's a charge attack DPS. She's not doing normal attacks, so that's not giving Moika fighting spirit, which is annoying. So that means, you know, Burn Melt can't even use Moika, but you can use Pyro Traveler probably, but Pyro Traveler is going to do a lot less personal damage than Moika will. Surprise. But anyway, let's see how this performs. Let's do this. I should have done Emily first, but alright. Okay, just not seeing this right. There we go. It's 60k and then 100k. It is better than what Bennett was, which is cool. It's cool that this is a non-Bennett Ganyu team, because that is a problem that, you know, Ganyu can have. And I don't know, it's cool that Burn Melt is a thing. But yeah, it just requires, like, you're sacrificing a unit that could be in place of the Dendro unit here, right? That could buff Ganyu more. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got, to be honest, as far as like things with Ganyu in 2025 with new characters and whatnot. I suppose the one other thing worth mentioning is that there is a 4-star artifact set that has existed since Ganyu was in the game, since the launch of the game, and that's 4-piece instructors. And 4-piece instructors is, I think, actually an interesting artifact set, particularly for the context of the Dendro teams. And particularly in the context of not Aquila Favonia, but R5 of Sapwood Blade. If Bennett can trigger a Dendro reaction, he can generate this leaf that gives 120 EM, and you can get 120 EM buff for 8 seconds from 4-piece instructors. 240 EM is a lot when it comes to doing melt DPS, so it's a clunky thing, but that could actually give you even more reasons to consider doing Burn Melt. Just another reason, right, Emily's release last August does actually, I think, give Ganyu new compelling teams, but for me, for my account, this is now my preferred Ganyu team. I was originally only going to take this team to the first half of Abyss, but I think I might have time this video to do 2 runs through Abyss and show the Emily team against the Papillas. Well, that's kind of poopy. Let's do this. Blam. I'm not going to go out of my way to try to get the 4-piece scroll buff on Cryo, because, again, I'm just high enough investment enough, I don't think it'll matter that much. Blam. I don't Why are we getting so much more damage here than we did in oh my, that
Burns.
the best part about Moika is her bonkers death animation sometimes. Although I don't, it might be generous to call it a death animation. It's more like death jank-imation. But I'm actually all for it. It's the only good part of her motorcycle is that she got jankness. That's amusing. And the one wasn't here. Alright. Not critting with a 90% crit rate build is something special, I will say. I'm gonna shut up and just see if I can get a satisfying looking clear. Doing okay. Okay, I don't think that burst was worthwhile. I mean, we still did a lot of damage, so maybe it was worthwhile. Don't. I don't want him to do a spin attack. No, he's gonna do the spin attack. Don't do it. Alright, okay. You know, I said I was going silent. I didn't go very silent, but I immediately got a good clear, so I'm happy with that. Realistically, you could probably expect, you know, a clear, instead of that what, 58-second clear, which wasn't that optimized, I don't think. But you could probably expect in the neighborhood of, I don't know, what, slightly over a minute clear without C2 Shallonen, I guess? It wouldn't be that different, I think, with the same quality of build. Nope. And no level of Constellation investment will help you if you're stupid and you die seconds before killing the enemy. A benefit of range damage, we can just like not have to worry about Bennett buff to take it out. Blam. Oh, I almost died because there's lava on the ground. Well. Okay, these guys, yeah, oh boy, they hit hard. Yeah, you gotta actually worry about getting hit by them. So yeah, it depends on the enemy. Some of them you can still get interrupted by. Okay, there we go. That was a little bit probably not ideal to say the least, but hey, it's fine with the damage bonus this rotation because of how clunky it was. Benefits of a clunky rotation sometimes. Alright, slam. Oh, you just one-shot me. That's extremely rude. I have a solution for that problem, don't worry. Yeah, you do that. I'm just gonna forgo Bennett buff, or Bennett energy, so we can miss our shots. Yep, that's exactly what I wanted. Well, okay. So it turns out Ganyu, even against a boss that can be frozen, like it just did, is still a little bit annoying. I think it just means it's time to focus a little bit and play well, because that's what Ganyu is. Ganyu is a character that I think rewards playing better. Great. Horrible. Just don't get hit by that attack. I think we're fine. Probably. Okay. Flat. Wasted some Bennett uptime. It's fine. The goal is to not die. Alright, good. Weaka's getting melts here, but hey, it's fine. Alright, we got it. Don't get smacked. Oh, you oh, he removed the, whatever, we got it satisfying damage. Blam. 1 minute clear. That was decent. There we go. All it took was Bennett Burst. All it took was Bennett Burst. Alright. Now while that's going, we can always still wait. We'll wait. I wanna kill with Ganyu. It's unacceptable to kill with not Ganyu, right? Alright, blam. And blap. You don't have fire on you? I don't think I got a melt. Alright, well, whatever. Hey, benefit of Shallonen, it adapts to new waves. Crazy. And hey, see, I got not interrupted there. I almost barely didn't kill it. Well, whatever. It's a little bit of an unsatisfying end here. Kill it with skill? Yeah. You know what? That's fine. So yeah, it took some, optimization of play and whatnot, and obviously some enemies still interrupted me. It's not like it's brain off to play. I think that's a good thing, right? I personally like when teams require some, focus in how to play. This is making me actually enjoy Ganyu, whereas, most Ganyu teams I tried in the past felt like they were some mix of an unsatisfying amount of damage on Ganyu and or, frustrating to play in some form. So, yeah, it's not like she's fundamentally changed, right, compared to, using Xiangling instead of Muika. And I think Xiangling instead of Muika still probably works fine here. I think Shallonen probably, most cases, for most people, will feel like she does more than what Muika does. But Muika is what kind of completed the picture as far as how Ganyu can feel better for melt DPSing. Let's give the Emily Burning team on the second half a shot. Alright, there we go. Finally, let's do this. This. Alright. And blam. Yeah, it's just so much less satisfying damage. I don't know. It's not dysfunctional by any means. And this only took us a minute to clear. Let's see how we do against the butthole shield enemies. Blam. I mean, Ganyu is not actually, realistically, we do Ganyu first here, right? Just to do more hits of elemental application, get the shield faster. So we do this. Are we even gonna get a charge attack on it, or is it just gonna die? Yeah, I mean, it's just we're not even doing that much with Ganyu, right? it's just Emily Muika, AFK gameplay, dealing with the annoying shield enemies, which, yep. Is this what Genshin Impact in 2025 is? Just AFK gameplay? You occasionally use the on-fielder you like? I don't have Pyro going right now. I think kind of. In against some enemies it kind of is. It's worth mentioning this team is clearing on this side of the abyss, right? Is clearing more smoothly than the other side was, right? So I don't know, but make of it what you will. Let's do this, and let's do Ganyu damage, and Ganyu can still get very competent damage, right? It's certainly nothing to sneeze at. It's not like this is so bad. It just feels less to the spirit of doing Mount Ganyu, right? But it's completely a valid approach to deal with different situations, such as ones that, benefit more from just more sources of damage, and this could get probably more consistent players, I'd say, more often. Basically, all in all, I like the Emily team variants. I also like these variants, and both of them are at the strengths of, Muika and how her off-field pyro works, giving me flexibility and blah, 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 blah. So as far as, is Ganyu good in 2025? That's, I think, for you to decide. For me, she is better than what she was before. She's definitely good in my books, but, I'm someone who will do beam DPS Shenhe things, or maybe DPS Charlotte soon. So, my standards might be lower than yours. I don't know. If you are dedicated enough, you can get Ganyu to feel pretty good, right? That's, I think, the ultimate conclusion. I think this is a strength of Genshin's game design, right? The fact that, an older character like this can, get new value from new characters being released, right? Ganyu hasn't been buffed. They don't buff character kits directly, basically, but they do release new characters that can indirectly buff older characters by them having new team options. And that's cool, right? That's, I think, a really, really fun thing. Let me know how you're using your Ganyu. Or maybe you just hate Ganyu because charge attack gameplay ain't your thing, which is, I'd say, completely fair.